Hello and welcome to Different Perspectives. I'm Paul Ndiho. Zambia's late President Edgar Chagwa Lungu is finally said to be laid to rest, but not without controversy. After days of back and forth, the government and Lungu's family have reached a deal for a state funeral. This came after the family revealed that Lungu did not want President Hakainde Hichilema, his longtime political rival, anywhere near his body. Despite that, a compromise was struck. His body arrives in Lusaka, Zambia on Wednesday with full military honors to lay in state, and a public funeral will be held on Sunday. Burial follows on Monday at Embassy Park. Ndiho Media spoke to Mundia Paul Hakola, a political analyst based in Lusaka, for more insight on the controversy and what it reveals about Zambia's deeper political divide. There's been a lot of controversy surrounding the death of the former president of Zambia, Edgar Chagwa Lungu. What's the status of his state funeral arrangements as we speak?
We lost the former president, so it's a sober time in Zambia, and the mourning has been extended due to some of the differences that were there between the opposition and also the family, and now with the current government. But I think they have reached an agreement to ensure that we actually move on as a country. The status is that the former president will be actually put to rest on Monday, and that being said, that should be the 25th, and that being said, his body will be arriving from South Africa, where he died from, on Wednesday, and a number of the roadmap has actually been given by the government. So the status is that he's going to be given a full presidential burial with all the military status that is supposed to be given. The traditional, the ceremony that is actually held for former presidents, the gun salute and everything that is supposed to be accorded, that will be accorded to him, and the official burial will be on Monday. So I think that the status right now is that the period has been extended also for national mourning, which was supposed to have ended the 7 days, but it has been extended so that the period which the body is going to come in, a number of ceremonies, a number of activities are going to take place, including the victory ceremony, which will be taking place at the Supreme Court. As you are aware that the late former president was a lawyer, and that's a standard for a lawyer to actually have that level of the ceremony. So I think that the government has actually agreed with the family a number of the roadmap. I think that it's a positive time right now, because there has been an impasse over the past period, but there's an agreement, and to us who are in civil society, I think that and also in the governance spectrum, I think that's a good thing, because it actually gives us hope that our leaders are able to sit on the table to agree and actually look at the greater good of the country, because anything that is bringing in lack of dialogue and agreement actually brings in bad seeds in our country, and we are of the view that we are at a positive step right now.
Interesting. From your point of view, what seemed to be the problem? Was it the family not agreeing with the government? Because I remember the government made it clear that they were going to accord him a state funeral after he had passed. What changed in between?
I think firstly and foremost, for us, we think that the biggest issue has been that there had to have been a number of disagreements, because I think from the way the relations are, we have the benefits, the Presidential Benefits Act that looks at that, the former President's Act, and where this genesis of this problem comes in is when a former head of state actually joins politics, it actually strips them of all the benefits and the security and so forth. So when you declare to say, I'm actually going to be joining politics, the act says that you actually lose your benefits, meaning that whatever is provided for under the act, which is the driver, the security, the house, and so forth, is actually stripped off from you. Therefore, because you become actively politically engaged, and from that, that's where the genesis of this problem is. From my viewpoint, is that that's where the problem has been, because this is not the first time we're having such a controversy. Of course, maybe because the other heads of state who would have died were in Zambia, and I think that there has been all these issues of negotiations in the background, which didn't reach the level whereby it was an international issue, and the former head of state was out of there. So that act in itself, I think that it needs to be actually looked at and said to see whether a person who has worked on that office are going to be stripped off. Is it a matter of right that they are going to benefit from these benefits, or is it a matter is it a matter of actually saying is it a matter of right, or is it just the issue of the status quo that the former head of state has to do? I think the genesis being it of that act has been that, as you are aware, we're under a rule of 27 years under UNIP through Dr. Kaunda, who was there. And when he left office, there was actually a sitting in to say, what is it that we are going to do to look at the benefits of the former president? And they also, the genesis was that he was actually politically active. And one of the things to actually bar him from actually coming back was to also make such an act which says if you're going to join, you're going to lose. So there are two things. On the other hand, you want to take the good care of the benefits. On the other hand, you also want to be mindful about the former president joining politics, which also has its own implications.
How about people who said that everything was politically motivated, considering the fact that the two gentlemen, the current president and the former president, had their own issues that have not been resolved, and therefore are leading to some of the things that we see play out?
Yeah, so there are those insinuations, but the issue which is there is that the problem with the law is that it's blind. It doesn't look at who is it that is going to be enforcing on. So if it's the law kicking in place, it actually kicks in place, and it does look at it doesn't look at who's there. So I think from the government point of view, it was the issue of the law, and also from the opposition point of view, it was the issue of fundamental rights and saying, look, this is a person who has a right to movement, a right to this, and a right to that. So it's in between the rights and in between the law that is where the conflict comes in from. Because on one hand, the former president says, I have these rights, I have to enjoy these rights. On the other side, the government says we are enforcing the law according to what is legislated in here. So that is where the conflict now comes in, and now that conflict now brings in an issue whereby it has to be actually resolved, not looking beyond looking at the law, but also looking at what is humanitarian at that point of view. So there has been a standoff, yes, so to say, because I think there are acts that were done when the late president was there, and also there was that issue that has been standing. So looking at that, there was a tension in between the two political parties, and for them, they would be able to say that. But from my view, it's the issue of the act, the law, and also the issue of the rights that were in conflict, and which one takes precedence at that point.
How are people reacting to these latest developments?
I think there's calm in the country because when you are able to see dialogue, people are also going to have the hope to say we are going to actually have a normal kind of business after the morning, because people were not certain to say what is it that is going to happen, because morning period has got its own restrictions on certain things like entertainment, certain things like there are certain things you cannot be able to conduct during the time of the morning. So I think that business houses and also looking at the general populace of the country, they were of the view that it is important that we have a finality to whatever is happening. And that finality has to be that we have a clear date of when is it that where the body is going to arrive, and when is it that we are going to put the former head of state to rest from having the burial. And also, as you are aware, that Zambia has played a very critical role in terms of the region, in terms of spearheading regional integration, and also looking at our forefather, Dr. Kaunda, played a critical role in the liberation of most of our neighboring countries. So Zambia has been at the heart of many countries within the region that are seeing us to be somehow a place where they can be able to come, and a place whereby they're able to actually see us as a role model in one or two things. So having played that role, I think that they are able to also, there was also the clarion call that we should be able to lead by what we preach and what we have been able to build over the years, so that we are able to put this to rest, because we have been the ones who have been at the or at the front line of doing a number of dialogues in this country. A number of peace dialogues have happened, a number of movements that have sprung out from within the region that have helped liberate the regions came out from Zambia. And so there was that expectation. So the putting to rest this matter not only reaffirms our commitment as a country and also as a people to actually foster this democracy, and also to look at dialogue beyond the borders, but also to also ensure that the people are actually having a sense of saying we are able to actually have peace within our own accord, and we will have at least a tranquility in the country.
Tell me something. Uh, every time there's been a change of government in Zambia, and this goes back all the way to former President Kenneth Kaunda, Chiluba, really going after Kenneth Kaunda, and since then it set like a precedent. Every single leader who has come in uh, has gone after his predecessor. Why is that?
Firstly, I think that we need to look beyond, we need to define as a country the roles of the former head of state very clearly. And we need to have an exit strategy, so that we are not able to see them as a competing force, but as people who are going to complement the work that we are doing beyond them serving. I think we have seen in other developed countries like the United States and others, where the role is actually accorded and the office is actually dignified. So I think we need to spend and labor more to be able to actually look at what are the roles that can be defined by an act of parliament, also by them just being able to have a more dignified role. That is a proper exit strategy. I think in a devoid of a law or leadership in terms of having what is the role that the former head of state will come in, a lot of people go back to them and say, look, you are still popular on the ground, and you can still come back and do this and that. And that is because of also kind of because of the roles are not so clear. Of course, there's this issue of former president, but let us have more roles and also encourage, even at a regional level beyond Zambia, where we can have something that is going to be like maybe standardized within regional bodies, where say, okay, former heads of state, this is what they'll be doing. I think it will be encouraging more of peaceful transition beyond them. And also, we have seen in other countries where people have held on to power for so long. I think some of these things are because we have not defined what is it that we're supposed to be. But if we're going to define them at a regional level and see how it is, maybe at SADC level, even at AU level, we actually look at some form of significant roles that these former heads of states are able to play. And it's actually embedded, then people will be more comfortable to say, okay, I was president, I was to enjoy my diplomatic passport, I'll still have this and that. I think that in Africa will be able to help us, because for me, from where I stand from, I think that's one of the things that is a bigger challenge, where we have seen people going after one another. And also, I think that it's also because of the law, whereby the president has got immunity at that particular time when his office in tenure is protected by law. There's no criminal proceedings that can take place against them. So if there is a prima facie case to actually say that there's something that happened at that particular time, then maybe at that time they are able to do it. But I think that in our process now with the constitution we have, I think it's a rigorous kind of a process. You have to go to parliament, remove their immunity, and after removing the immunity, then that's when you are able to do that.
But to your point, a lot of critics said that the current government of Hakainde Hichilema stripped off immunity from Edgar Lungu. How do you respond to that?
I think that that assertion could not be said to be true because the procedure of removal of immunity is quite clear. The issue is if the president, I mean, the government was going for the people who are maybe associates and people who are closely connected to the former president, doesn't mean that you have removed his immunity. Because his immunity means that you have to remove it, you have to go to parliament, and after that, you actually state that the immunity has been removed. And from there, that's when you are going to take that's when you are going to take legal action, or that's when you are going to start prosecuting the former head of state. I think that the issue comes from the fact that maybe he was passionate about going with his family to court and also being a supportive father beyond politics and so forth. I think those are some of the things that would have been ascertained to say, look, this is a former head of state, he's appearing in court and so forth. But those court cases were not where he was answering as a person, but probably would have been escorting his maybe his wife or something like that. Probably that would have been the case. So, from a legal point of view, I don't think that his immunity was removed, but it's about the circumstances in which he found himself, and those would have made people certain to say maybe his immunity was removed, and which was not the case.
How about for people who said that the current president, in a way, never forgave President Lungu for what he did to him? He locked him up in maximum prison, subjected him to all sorts of torture while he was in prison. Uh, there are a lot of people who said that that alone maybe could have led to what we are seeing play out. How would you respond?
Oh, it's a very difficult scenario, but what I would say is that it's possible he wouldn't have forgiven him. It's also possible that he would have forgiven him. The biggest challenge we have in Zambia has been that when you're president, you come in and they like for Zambia, we have the issue of the debt, and we have all sorts of bilateral donors who come in and say, look, there's a challenge of corruption in Zambia, and you need to clean up the system. That's one of the conditionalities of you to receive the aid and so forth. And so there are a lot of things at play. So looking at that and the issue about the fight against corruption, I think it's a benchmark which every other donor, every other development partner is going to put on the table, and that's why you have seen that the successful governments that have been there beyond, and that has been the trend. These successful governments are also going to come in because everyone will tell you to say, we want a clean kind of a system for us to be able to give you development aid, for us to be able to network with you, and we have to be seen to actually fight this corruption and to uproot it at the highest level. And I think anything is possible in politics, as you are aware that these are politicians, and whatever they are able to do is not something that we can be able to predict.
How about for the two gentlemen that we are talking about? Uh, are they angels, or they all have their own ways of doing things, and to get things done sometimes you have to hamstring the other person to to stay on top?
Yeah, I think there's no angel in politics. Everyone in politics has to use all sorts of methods to be able to remain in power. There's no angel. And this is Africa, and in Africa's politics has been one of the roughest kind of politics. As you go there, you have to be prepared to having. I mean, in Zambia, they also say that you are not ready to become a president. We have not tested you. It is a joke there, but I mean that's just the issue about African level of politics. So beyond that, I think that there are all sorts of methods that are there. But in terms of us, our core has been that let us be able to inspire the young people that are there, to practice politics that are going to actually talk about what is it that you are going to do for the people, politics that are going to bridge in love, and also that are going to actually unify the country.
How does the country move forward?
How does the country move forward? Let's be able to bury our former head of state with honor, and let him be put to rest. After he's been put to rest, let us introspect as a country. We call the church, have a roadmap of how we can do as a country and see how we move forward as a country. Otherwise, I think we have made some tremendous progress, and the fact that people are sitting on one table, the fact that we are going to bury him where all presidents are being buried, I think we have passed a certain level of hurdles, and I think that's a positive thing.
Ndiho, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. It's been a great pleasure.
You want to know what you think about President Edgar Lungu's legacy? Share your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to Paul Ndiho on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, and YouTube.